AVC, I did a big classical update about a month ago, so I figured it was time to do a big summer rock update. This is stuff that I've been collecting for the past 5 months or so, and I figured I'd just knock it all out in one video rather than doing it month by month. Good mix of stuff here, some classic rock, some 90s alternative, and some modern stuff, so I'm just going to dig right in. First, we got a fair amount of MoFis here. So I'm just going to go through them. We got the first album by the Pixies. This is Doolittle. This was kind of the start of grunge. These guys were really innovative, and they gave, I believe I read in an interview once that Kurt Cobain said his favorite band was the Pixies, and it really shows. These guys precursed what would become the sound of Nirvana. And we got the really famous one, the second Pixies album on MoFi. This is Surfer Rosa. This is the one they're most known for. There's a really famous track on this, Where Is My Mind, and you may recall it was used in the ending credits of the famous movie Fight Club. That's where these guys got a lot of their fame from. Next up in MoFi, we have an album that I probably should have picked up a long time ago. This is the Blue Album by Weezer, their first full-length album. I held off on getting this just because I'm not the world's biggest Weezer fan. The one album they put out that I really do like is Pinkerton, so I, of course, already had Pinkerton for a while. But this one's pretty good, too. This one and Pinkerton are really the only two albums by them I listen to. And this is, of course, the new one that MoFi did. They repressed it on blue vinyl, which is cool. MoFi normally doesn't do colors. It's like a blue haze or a blue swirl. Here we got one that's been on my bucket list for a really long time. This is my first Anadisc MoFi record. If you don't know, Anadisc was a series that MoFi did in the 90s. So they had their original series of MoFi records that they did in the late 70s and 80s, and they stopped pressing records for a while. They came back in the 90s with Anadisc, which was a short-lived series in the 90s, and then they went bankrupt, and that's when Music Direct bought them. And now the MoFis coming out now are the Music Direct era MoFis. The Anadisc ones are actually some of the rarest. They weren't pressed in big numbers. So I got my favorite Sonic Youth album, Goo, on MoFi. I'm so excited that MoFi did this because it's kind of outside their normal repertoire. This is a really great classic 90s alternative album. And then I got the last MoFi here. I got a MoFi pressing of one of my favorite albums from the 70s. This is Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, Deja Vu. This is such a well-recorded album, and the MoFi treatment really does it justice here. This definitely has become one of my demonstration discs. It's just the sound quality on this is incredible. And the sound quality on the original pressing is nothing to laugh at either. So this makes it even better. Next, we got some new pressings. This is a brand new record. Well, actually, it's a one-year-old record by the band Oh Brother. This is Endless Light. This is their 2016 album. Oh Brother are kind of a alternative post-sludge, post-hardcore. You know, they're just kind of a slow, heavy band that's a little alternative, a little experimental. If you're into like doom metal, stoner rock, if you're into bands like Sleep or Neurosis, you might like them, but I wouldn't say that they sound like either of those bands. It's just give them a listen. They're interesting. They're kind of slow, heavy, sludgy alternative rock. I think I would describe them as that. Here we got two repressings of what are, in my opinion, classic post-hardcore albums. This is a brand new repressing, first time on vinyl, of From First to Last 2004 album. Is this 2004? Yeah, 2004 album, Dear Diary, My Teen Angst Has a Body Count, which is an album that would only be titled that in 2004. This was the debut album by From First to Last, and it features really, really great poppy post-hardcore songs on it. And it's very notable because the vocals on this album and the next album I'm about to show you feature a 16-year-old Sonny Moore. And Sonny Moore, of course, a lot of people know as the electronic artist Skrillex. Yes, before Skrillex was a dubstep DJ, he was a singer in a post-hardcore band. He was actually a pretty good singer, too. I don't really like the music he's doing now, but I like his music back then. And this is their second album. This is the last album to feature Sonny Moore. This is from first to last, Heroine. This album is interesting because it was produced by one of my favorite producers, Ross Robinson. Ross Robinson is kind of a legendary producer in terms of post-hardcore records. He produced the Blood Brothers' Burn Piano Island Burn. He produced Glassjaw, Worship and Tribute. He produced a lot of my favorite post-hardcore records. I think he also might have done At the Drive-In Relationship of Command. Don't quote me on that, but I think he also did that album. So he did a lot of legendary albums in the early 2000s. I never listened to an album that he produced that I didn't think was excellent. He has good taste, but he's also able to coax a really good performance out of a band. He's able to get the band to rise to the occasion usually, and that's the sign of a good producer, I think. Doing more post-hardcore, this is a recent album by the band CNBAR. CNBAR are the side project of Will Swan, the guitarist from the band Dance Gavin Dance. And I really like this a lot more than I've enjoyed the last couple Dance Gavin Dance albums. I'm a big fan of Dance Gavin Dance, but their last two albums have just not been doing it for me. I don't like the writing and arranging on them, but I do like the writing and arranging on this. This is another album on Will Swan's record label, but it doesn't feature Will Swan. This is the self-titled album by Stolas that just came out this year. More good noodly post-hardcore. And here we got a emo revival record. This is a EP by the band The World is a Beautiful Place and I'm No Longer Afraid to Die, a ambient emo revival band from... I think they're technically from Long Island. I've seen them play in New York a bunch. This is their EP, Between Bodies. This is a really fun band. They have a ton of members. They have way too many members for me to keep track of. Going into some older stuff now. This is the Pure Pleasure repressing of the first Quicksilver Messenger album. This was a really great progressive, psychedelic, acid rock band out of San Francisco. They were one of the bands that kind of made up the San Francisco sound. Here we have a recent Discord reissue of the last Jawbox album, which is self-titled. Jawbox were a really incredible 90s band, a 90s post-hardcore band in the same vein as bands like Fugazi. Jawbox were kind of I would call them Fugazi with more hooks. These guys were really great. They're probably more known for their album before this called Your Own Special Sweetheart, but this is a great one too, and it was reissued from the original analog tapes, which is awesome for such an unknown album. Got a Screamo record for you guys. This is a band I just discovered recently from Japan. This is the band Blue Friend, and this is their album I Will Always Be Your Blue Friend. I got turned onto these guys via, I think Skeletal Lightning had them in their distro, and I looked them up to see what they sounded like, and they were incredible. I really dig their stuff. I don't know if they're still making music. This came out in like 2015, and I don't know if they're still around. Screamo bands have a notoriously short lifespan, but check this out, because this is really good. I don't really know what kind of metal to call this next one, but this is the debut album by the band Ghost, Swedish band Ghost. Opus Eponymus, I believe is the name of the album. This is a doom metal, a poppy doom metal band from Sweden that's been getting very, very popular lately. If you're familiar with metal at all, I think you've probably heard of these guys. They play very big festivals. This is an interesting band because they utilize a lot of their whole gimmick is utilizing a lot of satanic imagery and very dark, demented stuff. They have like an anti-pope is the singer. The singer dresses up as like a satanic pope figure, and he has his nameless ghouls in the background. It's a really cool concept, but the style of music is actually surprising because it's very easy listening. It's very poppy. The singer has a really mellow voice. It's only clean singing. He has this kind of like sweet, soft baritone going on. So I would describe the metal as like groove metal with a lot of poppy hooks to it. I haven't really heard much music that sounds similar to this, so my advice is to just go listen to this so you can better understand what I'm talking about. These guys are really good, and I do think they deserve all the press they've been getting lately. I picked this up in my local record store. This was an emo album that I've been meaning to get for a long time because it was one of the bigger albums in the recent emo revival. This is Dad's American Radass, and I just happened to find a signed copy of this. I'm not the person that got it signed. I found this for $10 in a local record store. But this is a really, really good Twinkly emo album. Came out about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's one of the better examples of the current wave of emo revival that's been popping up. Here we got an absolutely brutal, heavy as iron album. This is the new album from the band Nails, You Will Never Be One of Us. It's just a pummeling, heavy power violence record, similar to the stuff that's been coming out on Deathwish Records. This is on Nuclear Blast, but if you're into stuff like Full of Hell, you will definitely enjoy this band Nails. They've been getting quite popular lately. I saw them about a week ago, and they were intense. Got some more classic rock here. Got my only DCC Compact Classics pressing. This is the DCC pressing by Steve Hoffman of the first Cream album, Fresh Cream. Sounds incredible, and of course this is a great example of early 60s psychedelia. Cream were a pretty legendary band. I got another Cream album here. This is an original US Atco pressing of Cream's third album, Wheels of Fire. This is the first US pressing, and it sounds amazing. It's probably the one to get for sound quality. See that purple and tan label there? That's what you want to hunt down. This sounds really, really good. I had no idea this album could sound as good as it did. I always thought it was kind of a compressed album until I listened to it on the original pressing, and then realized it was engineered quite well. This is probably my favorite Cream album too. Got a local Texas band here. This is the only full length by the political power violence screamo hardcore band Amygdala. These guys are a female-fronted hardcore band with screamo influences, I think is the best way to describe them, and they are one of the more overtly political bands out there right now. Just really, really, really biting, aggressive politics on this record. The kind you're either going to love or hate. Me, I'm into it for the most part, but these guys are good. I saw them in a tiny anarchist bookstore about 2 years ago, and they blew my mind. Got a classic post-hardcore record here. We have the second album by As Cities Burn, Come Now Sleep. These guys were a post-hardcore band from the early to mid-2000s. This is the album where they kind of broke away from the heavier sound of their first album and kind of explored a little bit more, some subtler melodies. Not as much screaming on this album. These guys were really good. They kind of sometimes get pigeonholed as a Christian rock band, but I think they're a lot better than their peers in the genre. Here we got the most recent album from The Deer Hunter. This is them continuing their Act series. This is Act 5, Hymns with the Devil in Confession. This is a pretty good album. I'm a big fan of The Deer Hunter's earlier work, and this is good, but I don't think it still lives up to Act 2 and 3, what they put out much earlier in their career. But it's still quite good. I was pretty impressed with the recording quality and engineering on this album. It surprised me. There's a lot of really nice dynamics and deep bass in this, which is unusual for a modern rock record, to be honest. Got a really great and just brutal split by two awesome screamo bands here, Ostraka and Fleshborn. This is their split album, Faces of the Moving Year, which just came out this year on Skeletal Lightning Records. Really great example of kind of the more chaotic and harsh screamo that's been popular for the last couple of years. These guys are really good. Coming up on the end here, I got the full-length album. I don't know if it's their only full-length or not. I think this is their first full-length album by the British band Good Time Boys. What's Left to Let Go. This one I got at the same record store. I got the signed Dad's album, so I think this was owned by the same person because this is signed too. This is really great. It's a hardcore band, but they're very emotive hardcore. If you're into bands like Touche Amore or La Dispute, you'll probably like Good Time Boys. It's hardcore with an emotional edge, but I wouldn't call it screamo. These guys put a lot of passion into their music. When I saw them live, a couple years ago at South by Southwest, and the singer was like deathly ill, it looked like. I mean, he was really, really sick, and he went up on stage and still gave it his all and gave like one of the most energetic performances I saw that week. And then immediately got off stage, overheated, and threw up in a trash can. I mean, that guy was not doing well. Must be American food. But so I really admire the passion these guys put into their music, and it's some really good lyrics as well. And the last album on the list, this is a recent reissue that's been put out of The Grateful Dead Europe 72. It's a series of concerts they did in Europe in 1972, released as a triple gatefold live album, the double cover there. Really great example of the Grateful Dead's live work. And the recording quality is quite good, and the reissue quality is quite good. I believe this was done all analog. I believe this reissue is all analog. I know it was cut by either Kevin Gray or Bernie Grunman. I can't remember. But pretty good sound quality on this. And that's it. That's all the records I have to show you. It's more than half a year of collecting various genres of rock, and I've managed to listen to most of this stuff now, but there's one or two that I haven't gotten to yet. Thanks for watching, VC. I hope to do some more videos this summer if I get the chance. I'm going to Napa Valley tomorrow, and I won't be back for 3 weeks. I'm going to be playing music there. But when I get back, hopefully I can do one or two Give Me 10 videos, or maybe a video just on something specific. I'd like to do more types of videos than just showing you recent record purchases, because those can get a little boring. But once again, thanks for watching, guys. If you like this content, please subscribe. Also give a link to my Instagram if you want to know what I'm listening to at any given time. I mostly just post pictures of records. So I hope you all are enjoying your summer, and until next time, cheers.